Hey y'all, Alicia here. I was working on the podcast, kind of trying to figure out a nice way to present the year, and my brain just kind of shorted out at the thought. I mean, how could we possibly spend a half hour or an hour and represent everything for the past year? So I'm not even going to try. But as I was listening, I started noticing some patterns in the audio clips that I was listening to through the year. So I don't know about you, but patterns are interesting to me. I noticed that something was a little strange. And you thought I was going to say weird instead of strange, but I didn't. So I wonder why. Anyway, I decided to play a game instead. This is going to be called Guess What They're Talking About This Time. So I hope you can play along, and thanks for indulging me. Here's the first clip. It's better than getting in on the computer and getting paranoid from a bunch of conspiracy theories.
Oh, golly, Mom! Just thought it was safe to go back on social media. This morning it's like, oh my God, it's Armageddon. Oh, it's World War III. And you can go ahead and crow this out. He needs to be stopped. But how does worrying everybody to death about being World War III help anything? Does it? No.
No, I think instead of worrying, people would be better if we just calmly explained why it'd be a good idea to get your together now. Excuse me, to get your poop in a group now.
Right. Crow, crow, crow. We use the crows to cover up our meanness.
But everybody knows.
Everybody knows. When they hear crows, they can figure out. If they could see us, they could read our lips and go, oh, I know what she's saying.
Yeah.
Oh,
I bet they could probably figure it out anyway, most of
I think they probably could.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. No, I've been amazed with conspiracy theories lately because I'm not well versed in them. I don't go to a lot of media outlets that promulgate. There's your nice big word. Promulgate that information. And somebody put something on my Facebook page in answer to something I'd posted, and it was some kind of just BS, or as I like to think of it, uncompostable BS. Because BS is good stuff if you can put it in with some strong composting. Anyway, and I read it and I went, oh, all right. And I said, well, what are your sources on this? And she posted some YouTubes. And I said, no, I need to know your sources on this. Was it on YouTube? Was it on YouTube in like 1984? It's from 1984. What is it? Well, if you need to find your own sources. And I said, I got my own sources and they ain't saying none of this BS.
Well, I almost think that you hit on something right there because back when I was a kid, all those many decades ago.
Many moons ago.
There were conspiracy theories. We had them. We had all kinds of unexplained mysteries. That was a big deal. Mm-hmm. Spontaneous combustion.
Well, we have talked about this before. Spontaneous human combustion.
Oh, yes.
But I'm going to look up now what Dickens that's in, because it's in one of Dickens' books. Yes, ma'am.
Well, we had those theories. We had theories that there were UFOs among us. We had theories that the government was covering up UFOs. But, we didn't have any, or I don't remember, is what I should say. I don't remember any conspiracy theories that were directly harmful to other people or a group of other people. They were just kind of vague entertainment.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I'm thinking, I guess, the earliest conspiracy theory that I was aware of, and I was little, but I remember my parents talking about it, was who killed Kennedy.
Right.
Now, Kennedy died probably before you were even born.
1963, wasn't it? Yeah. Or 64.
63. And I was little. I was sent home from elementary school because the president had been assassinated, so I was little.
Wow.
But I remember them talking about it. They talked about it for years because a new theory would come out all the time. Well, it was the FBI. Well, it was the CIA. Mm-hmm. Well, it was communist. Well, it was. There was always a new theory about what it was.
The mystery of it is still around.
Oh yes, and every once in a while something new comes out. The mystery has been solved.
Right. But I mean, that was interesting, but it didn't seem like it was downright harmful.
No.
It was more entertaining. And so somewhere along the way, we went from Bigfoot to whatever,
Loch Ness
things I don't
Monster,
understand.
or the Brown Mountain Lights, which most of us have seen many times. So we'll go beyond that. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we went from that.
And that stuff doesn't hurt anybody, because if you believe in it, people may think you're a crank or a loony, but they're not trying to keep you out of church because you believe something they don't believe about Bigfoot.
Right.
But yeah, now it just feels so mean-spirited.
Feels manipulated.
And manipulated.
Yeah, and so I don't really trust any of the theories much.
No, me neither.
What I observe, and really the best answer for it, because I was one of those people who hated the mysteries. I wanted to know everything. So I would get out there and look for a UFO or look for Bigfoot or whatever, dive into the software about Kennedy. But with this, I don't want to do any of that. I don't, because I understand that there's something going on, and it's so much bigger than me that I'm probably never going to understand it. So what I do, and best example, best answer I've ever seen for that was what you said, circles on the ground. So it's like, okay, there's something going on. Let me dig in and do what I can do here locally. So that was a clip from January of this past year, 2024. And surprise, it was also originally a clip from March of 2022 called Listening to the Murder Sleeping on the Porch. Patterns. At least we're consistent. Here's another one for you. That is the truth. There's a whole contingency of people who felt like they had to put themselves at risk for to get food or to have a paycheck. And so people who had an underlying kind of paranoia or a scared kind of feeling, it really became exacerbated during this very real event. And so even people who are all about conspiracy and this was done by this, done by that one, you can't say it didn't exist. And you can't say that even if it was in everybody's mind and it didn't exist, it still had a huge impact. But the truth is, it was worse than that. It had, there were people who died, and we should never forget that.
Well, and there were people who are living today who had people die and they couldn't be with them.
So that was a clip from February of this past year called Byron's Ruthless Moral Inventory, February 4th to be exact. We were talking about COVID and its impact on us, but we might as well have been talking about what was going to happen later on in the year. In this next clip, we changed subjects a little bit, but the subject matter is still consistent. It shows up all the time, and I don't know why this one just kind of stuck out in my mind. Here we go.
It does something to me, and I'm not exactly sure what, but it kind of settles me and steadies me. It's like, oh, I'm among my home people. And, our home people ain't always the best people to be around anyway, but it does psychologically, it feels good. And plus there's music everywhere. I posted a thing this morning of just a jam, the musicians, two musicians got started and two more came in.
And the next thing you know, it's a music festival.
That's right. And then suddenly everybody's doing the music. So it's good.
That reminds me of the South Park episode where Cartman was, I don't know how he got this title, but he went around as if he was the Orchid Man. He had on the outfit and everything. Knock on the door and he'd say, "Ma'am, I need to inspect your house for hippies." And,
Oh no.
and he got to this old lady's house and he said, crawling around. He was like, "Yep, I knew it." And he goes up to the attic and there's 4 or 5 of them with a guitar playing Kumbaya or whatever it was. And he was like, "I knew it." And he goes and he finds them in the walls and all of that. And she says, "Well, I just thought it would be fine for a couple of them, for a couple of them." And he says, next thing you know, he said, "There's going to be a music festival." And there was.
Hippies.
Yeah, he could have been talking about Southern folks, because wherever there's a group of Southern people, there's going to be some music, and it just never fails. Never fails. It may not be traditional Appalachian music every time, but it could be.
I'm trying to think where I was. It might have been this conference at App State, maybe. They had hired a bunch of musicians. So everywhere you went, there'd be 2 or 3 people just playing music. One person playing the banjo and somebody else singing. And just everywhere you went, they were doing that. And it's not quite like that here, but it's nice.
That'd be a good world for me. I'd love that. A good world for anybody. If everywhere you went, people were sitting down and playing music. We wouldn't have a lot of time to make war if we were making that kind of music all the time.
No, we would not. We'd be doing is changing strings.
Yeah.
Because I know y'all go on without me. I've got to fix my B string.
If your B string.
My B string.
Yep. So that one was from March 10th of 2024. It was a clip from an episode called Reppin' and Creepin'. Byron was at Western Carolina. She was teaching a class called A Witch in the Woods, the unsurprising rise of dark culture in Appalachia. So, everyday kind of subject matter. We were both in a really good mood that day. I'm not sure why. Maybe it was a subject matter. You think that had anything to do with it? Anyway, if y'all are still with me, hang on. I've got another one coming up. Here we go. I'm thinking about, Armageddon coming or whatever the hell is going on, whatever's going to catch us.
Okay, let's get into it, because I got some stuff to say about that.
Yeah, go. Your turn.
So we have seen, and I've heard this from so many people, it's unbelievable, that what a beautiful spring. And people will bring up their favorite flower. I never saw daffodils so yellow ever in my life. Yeah. Oh, the tulips this year, they just lasted forever. Oh my goodness, have you seen the azaleas? Everything. And then you were earlier saying, I had the best strawberries I've ever eaten in my whole life.
That's the truth.
I am hearing that over and over again. And you and I were talking, and I've talked to other people about it too, when that week when we had the aurora borealis, we had hail the size of your fist in Barnesville with spikes. And you and I were saying that is not good. That is an omen. Like if that's not an omen, I'll eat my straw hat. Yeah. Since then, we have not had to eat our straw hats, and we're still hearing how good the food is. The peas in my garden this year are so delicious. So delicious.
Wow.
It's just been, just one good thing after another. And I've gotten uncomfortable now.
Yeah.
Because what does that mean? So we've had all of these riches and all of this glory, and then what happens next? And I'm not feeling but so sanguine about any of it.
And we had the aurora borealis, as you were saying.
Yeah. And everybody was like, oh, it's so beautiful. What a magical thing. Well, it was beautiful. It was beautiful, what I saw of it. But I don't know, makes me uneasy.
It makes me, with everything that's going on, now this is embarrassing, but it's my confession is I can't help but think of what I used to read and hear about in church about the last days prophecies, you know?
Oh,
And so
yeah,
all of this stuff, how did we even get started on it? But dadgum, it all feels like end times, including all these extra special good things,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know. That file was originally recorded on May 25th of 24, this past year. When Byron started saying the thinking part out loud, I remember my stomach just kind of went, whoop. It was an inner feeling of, ah, crap, really? And there was also a feeling of, oh, crap, really? That feeling did not go away for the rest of the year. As a matter of fact, I felt really justified by the time the year was over with. So we all know I'm talking about Hurricane Helene and what happened when she pulled into town and decided to park for a while. That name, Helene, it's never going to leave my mind. And I'll tell you something about me that you might already have known if you're a regular listener, and that is I've always been a huge fan of Frank Herbert's Dune series of books, the ones he wrote, not the ones that came after he died, that were written by his son. At any rate, they've been a huge influence on me. The morning that I woke up and realized what was going on, or thought I realized what was going on, I instantly thought of the phrase from the Dune books, infected with terrible purpose. That phrase was used to describe the young Paul Atreides. Now, I didn't actually identify with him, but I identified with the phrase. Then I set out to find my mom, and then I learned about real fear and regret, not knowing if she was okay or not. I should not have left her alone. I shouldn't have. Trying to get to her was a nightmare. I could not believe my eyes. I still can't believe my eyes. Eventually I did get to her. She's so tough. You know, that's Appalachian, by the way. We're determined to make it with or without your help, but please help. And that, for me, you know, that's kind of the rub. It's the pride part. It's like, I don't want to ask for help. But I was going to have to do that if I actually wanted to be useful. Byron was out saving the world, or at least working in her local circles and making things happen and organizing and just being tireless in her work for the area. So, you know, at least I could do is get on this microphone here and ask for a little help. So that's the one thing I really didn't want to do, but I did ask for some help. Almost didn't go through with it. And, you know, after that, it was on to the temple. I knew that she, at least, would be feeling the same way that I did, and I soon found out that there were lots of us. At the temple, we watched in amazement and gratitude as help started coming in. That feels like hope. Meanwhile, the weirdlings mobilized. They mobilized quicker than a cat on a hot tin roof, you could say. They had Discordia and Amazon and, you know, lots of willpower and magic, and they're just all around amazing people. If you don't know, they're a private group of our listeners. They organized themselves earlier on, primarily by a gal named Ilsa Plaisance. They came together originally to share a common interest in the podcast, or maybe they were just following their own terrible purpose and didn't know it. I mean, I tend to think it's the latter. It does surely feel that way. Pretty soon, the holidays began, and I personally was thunderstruck at how weird time was becoming. Is that a thing after a disaster? Does anybody know? So now we made it through the year and it's 2025, and may we never see this kind of suffering again. May we always help those who need us. May we always remember those who helped us in any way that they could. May we always help ourselves. So mote it be. If y'all are interested in helping us, please consider a donation if you can, or speak with someone at the Mother Grove Goddess Temple for a list of the things they need the most. Thank you. You are saving lives. For real. No joke. You're saving lives. Here's a little short conversation we recorded just yesterday, Byron and I. Time marches on and on and on and on and on and on and on. I hope y'all enjoy this.
I don't even know what our subject is. I guess it is, hey y'all, it's the first episode of 2025.
And the first new episode in a while.
Yeah. And we are just already griping. So
Well, I start as you mean to go on. That's what I say.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm done with a lot of things, as you know.
Yes,
and I'm on to a lot of new things, as you know. And I feel really good and confident about it, because today, as I was putting the cards in the laptop bag with the intention of bringing it over there this afternoon, today a card fell out. And I thought, well, that card I need to pay attention to. And the card that fell out was the upside down plow, reverse plow.
Oh, I love that.
And that literally means move on. That's exactly what it means.
It does. It means move on, but it also means it's not going to be easy to move on. So if it was upright, it would mean it's time to plow. You're going to plow a straight row.
Yep.
And here we go. It's going to be work, but it's going to be good. But upside down, it's moving forward, but maybe not as smoothly as you'd like to.
I think that, and I can't remember for sure, I would have to go check it, but I think that your definition of it originally in the key was something to the effect of it's time to stop looking back and move on.
And to move forward. Well, that sounds great.
It does. And I think it's a good harbinger for 2025. And I think it's a real good tool to have in my tool belt. I'm just going to move on. I'm not going to dwell on the things that I can't do much about. I'll never forget them. Hopefully.
Yeah, there's been some lessons of 2024. I do not think I will ever forget.
Yeah. No, I'll never forget some of the things that happened, and it felt like it felt personal sometimes, but
well, sometimes it was personal.
Yeah, true. You're right about that. My whole everything got overshadowed by the hurricane that came and did what it did. I was reading a report, I guess it was yesterday, and it was talking about the debris, and this is in terms of metric tons, maybe, or yards. I'll have to go back and see, but I will tell you this: they estimated that there were 100 million, whatever there were, units. Okay, and we have fixed and cleaned up and disposed of about 5%.
Yeah, that I read something like that maybe about 3 weeks ago, 5%. Just ahead of Christmas, and they said we've done 5% of that.
Yeah, 5%.
And I believe it. I believe it when I drive along Riverside Drive. I believe it.
Me too. I went from the Temple to South Asheville, and I took 25 on purpose. I wanted to see how it's coming along through Biltmore. And it's
Mhm.
still, it's a war zone. What can you say? But
Is it still? I've not been down that way in a while,
it is still,
but it still looks terrible.
it does. It does. I did see that the Osaka sign said something about rebuilding in 2025. And there was a small All Souls sign that they used to have in kind of in the middle of the road there where the gas station was, and it would
Uh-huh.
point towards the parking lot so that people would know where to turn. And it also said we'll be something to the effect of we'll be back and better than ever. We're strong.
Yeah.
And so I see a lot of that. I see a lot of Appalachia strong, and that's good. I like seeing that people are determined, even if it is kind of something that's trendy to say. I've heard a lot of
No,
that.
I like it too, and I think if I had my choice and could only have one of them, Appalachia Strong versus We're Not Okay.
Yeah.
I at least like Appalachia Strong because it sounds like, well, we're not okay, but we're gonna be okay. We're
I
gonna
don't know
be
that we've
okay.
ever been. Have we ever been okay?
Well, we've always been, well, I'm not even gonna go into. Yes, I don't know that we've been okay in a long time. And I
Okay.
don't know that what we're doing now is going to make us be any more okay. But I know that, what is his name? Harry Pylos, something like that, who's done a lot of development, housing along the river.
Mhm.
He came out in the paper, I think it was in Citizen Times yesterday, the day before, and he said, we were looking at a project down on the river and we just simply can't afford to build it because of the flood insurance involved. And he said, this event, this weather event, is gonna push the idea of living by the river back a long, long way. And I just thought, good. That's pretty damn good as
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned.
Well, yeah, I've always thought that. And now I understand people want to be by the river. I honestly wouldn't mind it, except for I would know now that it's
Well,
all,
you wouldn't mind it unless you had some common you wouldn't mind it unless you had some crow common sense and were like, well, I'm pretty close to the river. That might not be good if the river flooded. I
yeah.
remember my cousin had a little old creek in the front of her house, and we had, I don't know, a week of bad rain. Maybe we got the back end of a hurricane or something years ago, like in the 80s, mid 80s. And that creek rose, and it rose fast, and it covered her bridge, and it flooded her outbuilding. It was like a garage with a little room over it,
Mm.
and she lost a ton of stuff. Now it didn't flood her house. Her house is high enough up, but she said I never saw anything raise up like that creek did. I just never saw it.
Wow.
And we're gonna have more and more of this kind of weather. And if somebody is stupid enough to build right on a creek or to build right on a river, then they are too stupid to get insurance. They
Yeah.
need to just they just need to be there and have a good bug out bag, because when it's time to leave, then you grab your cat and your dog and your young'uns and you get the hell out.
Well, that's the thing that's the most important thing out of this is if nothing else, we have been reminded that we got to save our own damn selves because,
Oh hell, right, that's right.
yeah, and that will include educating the public. Even when we feel like they should already know something, we're going to have to
Uh-huh.
educate them. I hate to say it, but it's also true. And it's something that I want to make sure is done. And it's just for the most selfish reasons because I don't have time to babysit everybody. Do you? And the answer is no. So I would like people to save their own lives. I would like them to live a better life in the first place. But make plans, have contingency plans in case something's going to happen. I've thought many times about how it would feel to live right on the beach. And it's been a daydream, but it's also been kind of a not a daydream because of the whole hurricane thing.
Well,
It,
yeah. And you and I both remember back in the day, back in the 40s, back in the 50s, back in the 60s, if you had a place at the beach, it was a shack.
yeah,
And it was raised up on pylons, and you could park your car underneath and blah, blah, whatever, 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 because you knew the weather was going to get bad. There was just no question. And so,
right.
no, you did not build a crow $1 million house that could be wiped away by a crow hurricane. You just didn't,
I
because that was stupid.
well, what I was kind of taught was you don't put your valuable things there. You get your valuable things somewhere off the close coast because anything that's really close to the water can be wiped out. So, the thought was real estate at the beach is generally real estate that it's not. I mean, I can't think of any affordable real estate at the beach, in spite of what the realtors will tell you. I mean, affordable according to me. Okay, I'm not an expert, but so those people who can afford to have property on the beach nowadays, they can afford to lose that property at the beach. But folks who make it their primary residence, they can't afford to lose everything. And
Well,
so they should
and
think
those
about
people
that.
aren't going to live. Those people do not live right on the beach.
No, they can't
Those
afford to.
people that, well, whether they could afford it or not, people who live on the coast and live with hurricanes and bad storms, they know you don't get any closer to the beach than the second street back. It just,
I mean,
it doesn't make any sense.
it doesn't.
So, and even then, you're risking a lot because a hurricane. I mean, think about Isle of Palms
Yeah.
down in Charleston. And that
Think
used to
of,
be, I used to have a bunch of old hotels from the
yeah,
turn of the century, and it was very affordable for families.
you're right.
And then I was at Hugo, I don't remember what storm it was that went through there and raised everything on the damn island. Just took it all out.
I
And now
remember.
it's full of expensive condos and fancy ass hotels.
It is. Well, Ocean Isle, we used to go to a third row a home there that a friend of mine owned. And when she needed some work done to it, she would contact me, and either me and Randy would go and do it, right?
Yeah.
And it was fine. We'd get a week at the beach at a really cute little place, and she'd get her garbage disposal installed, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that that house is long ago moved into the ocean, and it was three rows back.
Yeah.
3 rows back. So, and you know what happened to us here in Western North Carolina, in Eastern Tennessee? I would never have thought of us as a hurricane corridor, but if you go back and look, I was surprised. We really are kind of a hurricane corridor. Now, this
Yeah, we
time
are. We are.
we were ground zero this time for a big one, and it
Well,
felt apocalyptic kind of.
yeah, but what happened this time is exactly what happened in 1916, is that we had a serious storm event. We
Yeah.
took a 24-hour, 36-hour deep breath and then got hit with another hurricane. And that's exactly what happened in 1916. They had a super rainy July, which I think
Yeah.
the first rain event was the tail end of a hurricane. And then we got whacked 36 hours later with another hurricane.
The difference being they probably didn't have nearly the amount of warning that we had.
No, no, they did not. And you can
So,
see that by looking at the old pictures of that flood
yeah.
and seeing the level of devastation.
Yeah. And the lives. It's crazy. And this place is more haunted now for good reason. And I was thinking about what our friend said this afternoon about, and what you said about, would like to know, to get some closure and get some idea of how many people have been swept away or buried under, how many homes
Yeah.
are actually on. And I know we're never going to get closure on that. I'm trying to deal with it, because I'm one of those people who's curious about everything, and I like to know the truth, and that way I can see clearly, make good decisions and all. But I just don't think we're ever going to know. And I'm sad that we've already got the Chamber of Commerce coming out and doing their ads and stuff. But I understand in a way they're trying to save the economy here. And they have the money to do it, but then it would be done their way. So we have to understand that.
Well, the thing that I have thought about now for 20 years is that the economy of this region has to be based on more than tourism.
Yeah.
Because a tourism economy does not take into account anything about the economic health of the people who actually live here.
Right.
It's all about bringing in tourists and tourist dollars and paying the least amount of wages you can pay so you can maximize the amount of tourist money you make. And that's not right.
They consider that it's a service industry. That's what I've heard it called before. It was a service industry, and that's how the pay rates are justified. And I can tell you that those people who work in these fast-paced hotels, they are upper skill level people. They should be paid a lot more. They are doing really hard work, taking a big responsibility on in many ways, and they're not getting compensated for it, not even close. But guess what?
No.
There are the folks working in the restaurants around here and in the print shops around here and in a lot of places around here. There's a bunch of industry around here that why people say, oh, I hate the union. And okay, I'll go to work for this place that's going to pay me just a little bit more than minimum wage, but they're not.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I don't know.
Because the unions are corrupt. Unions are corrupt. We can't be doing with unions. Well, here's the thing, though. If an employer can get away with it, they will. And the report just came out yesterday, the day before, about Walmart and how many billions and billions of dollars they made in profit. And then there was the percentage of people who work for Walmart and they are on public assistance.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was a significant percentage of the people who are employed there. Well, that is us as taxpayers giving a tax break to Walmart, which makes more money than just about anybody. But we have to give them a sugar tit so that they will just keep doing what they do. Well, I don't even know how to begin to talk about how wrong that is.
Well, let me say what I think about it for a second and see what you think. The folks that I know that have stayed employed with Walmart and have maybe changed positions, risen a little or whatever, and they seem to be really satisfied with their benefits and their pay. But all the rest of them, the ones who are what I would consider to be the floor workers, they're the ones that are not making that good of a money. But it seems like if you stick with Walmart for a few years and make it to one other level, they kick your pay up. But now that doesn't, to me, that's not okay. That's still not okay, because your employees are worth paying well, especially if you've got them doing a hard job. They're worth paying well. These people make so much money that it could not even begin to affect them if they helped their employees out a little bit more. But it would change everything for the employees and their families.
Yes, absolutely it would.
Yeah, so mark that one down as yet another mystery that I'm never going to figure out. I'm never going to get it. Never going to get it.
It's the mystery or non-mystery of capitalism. That's how capitalism works.
Yeah.
You pay off your owners and stockholders, and you make the minimum amount of outlay versus the maximum amount of income. And that's how it works. And somebody gets screwed in that process. and it's usually almost always the employees, but it's also the consumer.
Yeah.
So that you go to Walmart and you pay a cheap price for something that got shipped over here from Vietnam or wherever it came from. You pay a cheap price for it, and it's cheap goods.
Mhm.
It is not a sweater you're going to be wearing for 20 winters. It's just not.
That old ragged
Ugh.
black shirt that I wear, that was a
Uh-huh.
Kmart shirt. So it was like, I don't know, it's probably 30 years old now. I'll never
Yeah.
get rid of it, but it's also not the norm. I agree with you with what you're saying on that. It's, you load 16 tons. What do you get? And deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't
I
go.
can't go, sold my soul to the company store.